Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast, season 4. We're going to get to a lot today. It is late August. Kids are back on campus. Officially, classes have started. Summer's over. Single tier.
Right.
And
they're more than one. More than one.
It was a great summer. I had a great summer. I hope y'all did too. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the non-conference schedule, which has been announced. We're going to go through some of the lineup. Well, not the lineup, but the roster at least. I'm Corey Palm. That's Tanner Lips. That's head coach Tony Ersland. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to remember how we do this thing, and trust me, there was some bad mouthing of Zoom just before we came on air. So we are happy to be back with you. And Coach Tanner, great to see you guys.
No, great to be back. And you talk about summer, and I'd say what summer, because we'll talk about how we spent ours. But yeah, honestly, a lot of work got done in a positive way. I got away for a minute to enjoy my family and some time off. And here we are again, as you say.
Tony, a little hard to believe. We are starting our 4th season of the podcast here. And, we look back at however many, I'd have to check the episode count on how many that actually totals up to. But I think we're somewhere in probably like the 80s or 90s. And I feel like we've had a lot of cool guests and we're going to have, probably a lot more here as we get going on season 4 of the show.
Yeah, a lot of new and fun things to discuss, and then just a lot of changes too, right? I mean, I know we're going to discuss mostly the team and some summer and recruiting today, but you think about NIL and some of the different things that are just happening in the landscape of college athletics. So I'm sure we'll have a lot of new and different guests that we can bring on and kind of bring clarity to some interesting issues going on in college sports.
Officially episode number 78, this one right
78
here.
Corey. See, I knew we could come through with it.
Very good ballpark figure there. Coach, you teased it a little bit. Busy summer for you and the guys. Let's go ahead and walk through some of the things that you did, some of the things that they did.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, first and foremost, our guys, we had started summer school second week in June, and then typically, right, the entire team's back, and it was no different this year. So we had a good 6 or 7 week training cycle. Most of our incoming freshmen made it to that kind of cycle as well. So we were lucky to have all but maybe 2 guys that have just joined us this week here this summer, getting a jump on the team and building those relationships that are kind of so critical for every team, in their success. So just really enjoyed having the group on campus, getting to know those guys, and then starting on kind of indoctrinating them into our culture and kind of how we want to do things, especially now that you mix school into it, where their life got a whole lot busier.
Yeah, it was real different. A lot of rule changes this summer, and we can probably won't get to those today, but we may discuss them more on another show. But one of the positive changes was it increased how easy it was to get the freshmen on campus and get them rolling. There used to be a lot of hoops they had to jump through, and they reduced a lot of that. So it was great having those guys. One of the other things, Tony, in addition to having a lot of training, we were able to bring camps back on campus.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And we were fortunate. We had one, and numbers were good, right? Camps are kind of back in a stronger way for everyone. I believe that's, indicative of what happened at all of Purdue's camps. But we had a good, just general technique camp with a number of people, both men and women. So the women were out as well in good numbers this summer. And then we had the opportunity to run a strong, what you call a prospect camp, prior to Fargo. Which is one of the ways we spent our summer too, from a recruiting standpoint, and had a number of really good kids who won national championships were at that camp, and obviously several kids who are All-Americans as well. So yeah, camps were back in a big way and served a number of purposes, right? Just from, helping our guys kind of dig deeper into the sport and mentor and teach technique and think about our sport in different ways, which I think is always helpful. And then just having some elite kids on our campus once again.
Definitely a lot of fun to have those groups around. We were lucky enough to, camp got so big that we couldn't even hold it in the room. We had to move some mats out in the Lambert Field House and spread out, and which was probably a really good thing, Tony, because it was hot.
Yeah, boy, it was hot. That the kids got tested that week, man. It was hot and humid. So there's no doubt they were tested in a number of ways.
It was pretty crazy but it was fun. It was fun. We ended up staying out there for pretty much the whole month, Corey, where we had 3 mats pulled out onto the track in Lambert, and a little bit more air moving around with it. We definitely didn't lose a whole lot of heat from what
it
was
still
going on
spicy in there, but yeah,
it was still pretty warm, but at the same time it was cool to we had the big fans and and everything out there, so it was good to have a little bit more space, let the guys fly around a little bit more, and take advantage of a cool situation.
Yeah, change of scenery is never a bad thing, right? I mean, just to get out of the room where you're going to spend the rest of your year anyway. No, it was fun and different for everybody, and it's something you want to keep doing, right? I mean, every summer you'd like to go back to that.
Yeah, I know. Every time I would run into Tanner throughout the month of July, he's like, "How are we gonna know?" Yeah, I'm like, are you guys almost done yet? He's like, "No, we got 3 more camps." Like, oh, dude, come on. So it's busy month for sure.
It was crazy. Camps were fun. It was my with COVID and everything, it was my first time getting to go through camps and do camps and do that. And like Coach Ersland said, we had some record numbers for some of those groups. And the prospect camp, the elite camp was very different. It was smaller, so we had 2 camps that were both very, very different from just the way they operated and how many people we had and the way we scheduled it and so on and so forth. So that was, one of them was, the prospect camp was with prep for Fargo was all freestyle. So that was obviously real different for me, seeing that every day and some of the different stuff they were teaching and whatnot. But it was wild getting kids checked in and checked out and settled in and up in the morning, tucked into bed at night. It was nuts.
Tony, has your approach to camps changed over the years? Has that evolved? I mean, I know back in the day you probably went to camps yourself. How has that changed in the last few decades?
Yeah, there's no doubt. For me, it's changed a lot. I've been at places, boy, where you camped for an entire month or a good part of the summer, and that's just what you did. And there's so much more going on these days with kids and how their parents spend that money too, right? So you got to think of that. So we try to pick and choose our spots, right? We had a couple camps here, and then we'll also do some satellite camps, I'd call them, at high schools, where you go out and reach the kids there, because so many kids these days, the club system, if you will, is so strong. Parents aren't sending their kids as much to camps, right, like they used to, because boy, they're spending their money going to club year round or whatever it might be. So it has changed from maybe when especially you think about 30 years ago when I came out of high school, boy, every summer I probably did 3 or 4 wrestling camps. That's what I did. I picked out the schools that I was really interested in, and I'd go see them to get a feel not only for the campus, but learn different things. And today that's not quite the same. Kids still do camp, especially after a couple of years with COVID off. They really came out this year. But I just think you see a difference in how families spend their money. And as a coach, you got to be aware of that. Of course, I always encourage my young coaches too. You talk about AJ and Jake and some of these other guys too. There's great opportunities for them if they want to go camping. I've got twin boys, as most people may know. So, when we're done with camps or, the season, I'm trying to get out and watch them play baseball or swim as well. So it's a little different for me than what it was when I was, a young guy. But I think it's different for everybody and how they're spending their dollars. So that was a good question though, because it's definitely changed, over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Transitioning away from wrestling a little bit. took a little break, got a little vacation in here and there. I know, Tony, you had a really cool trip up north of the border. Got to spend some time away with your dad.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. Normally that's like an August trip, right? Like as soon as the summer training's over, we'll head up and go to Canada and get some fishing in Northwest Ontario. But due to COVID, we'd had my trip canceled for 2 straight years. So this year they took the leash off us and said, yeah, the border's open and we could go. And we went the 4th of July week. That was awesome. I don't know, if the fish just took the 2 years to get bigger or whatever, but we caught so many walleye, lake trout, northern, the fishing was outstanding. And my dad and father-in-law actually as well was up on that trip. So that was one, that was a 4 or 5 day getaway that I really appreciated. And, it didn't disappoint because boy, we caught a lot of fish and they were all big.
That's awesome.
And that's not just a fishing story for you. That is the 100% truth, people.
We're going to need photos if I'm not buying.
I got photos too. I got a picture of a 49-inch northern.
I actually saw that photo. I
got photos, boys.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So, Corey, you get to do anything that cool?
Nothing that cool. We took a few trips. We road tripped through Oklahoma and Arkansas. Don't ask. But we also we spent a couple a long weekend with both sets of grandparents for my little girl. So she got some good time there with them, and then we got a beach getaway to Florida for a couple days too. We did a bunch of little trips. The beach was 100% for me because I found out I'm the only one in my family that likes the beach. I think they're crazy, but that's another conversation for another day.
It is.
How about you, T?
The regular stuff. Went out to California, got to see some of my siblings. It was a quick trip for 4th of July. It was wild. California, for a state where fireworks are illegal, we didn't even have to go to like a show. Like we literally just sat in my sister's driveway and there were people doing their own private fireworks shows like in every direction. Like it was nuts. Like 360 degrees of fireworks going on everywhere around you. And I'm sitting there looking at people. I'm like, you can't buy fireworks in this state. What is going on right now?
Wink, wink.
It was like, this is nuts. It was, and it went on forever. So that was cool. Got up to a little hideaway in Michigan for a week or so. Got a little beach time at Lake Michigan and hung out. My 6-year-old has fallen in love with the water this summer, and like his swimming, like it was crazy. Beginning of the summer, like he wouldn't go near the water without some floaties, and now he's psychotic, like jumping in from all different angles and fishing stuff off the bottom of the pool, and it's nuts. Kids change fast, so it's been a wild summer from that standpoint. But otherwise, a lot of wrestling, and definitely ready to get back to it with a new group this fall. As I'll let Tony talk more in depth about this, but it's a fun new young group. For having some of the upperclassmen that we have, and like, Parker Phileas in his 17th year of college, Panola, Coleman, Matt Ramos, we've got some of these guys that have been around a little bit, but there is a huge group of new faces that are going to hit the lineup and hit the room this fall.
Yeah, people are going to have to dust off the old programs, or I guess look at the new ones, because there's going to be a lot of names potentially in that lineup that are going to be having an impact on this program this year.
For sure. So, Tony, you want to run through some of the new faces? I know that, we announced a couple of them.
Yep.
We announced Brody Bowman on signing day, and we announced transfer student Jake Knoll, who came to us from North Carolina State when he signed his tender. But there were a lot of other guys that we, due to rules, we were unable to announce at the time that have joined us.
Yeah, no doubt. You guys, Rubel, Law, Cade Law, Makatange, Kamasholi, and Brack Hooper, those are all guys, young guys that have decided to join us that we feel will be great additions to the program for lots of different reasons. I mean, obviously they can all wrestle and they've had solid, distinguished careers in high school, but probably more importantly for us, the kind of young people we think can really add to the culture of what we're doing. They believe in the work ethic and the passion that we have for the sport, and they're willing to do what's necessary to have success. So I think, talent's one thing, and you're always looking for talent, no doubt. But the longer I've coached, I've always talked about, kind of how people add to culture in different ways. And I think this class does that in a big way for us, because we will be young this year, but you're looking for guys who will add to that work ethic and the energy in the room. People who have great attitudes about working hard and getting better and finding different ways to get better. We talked a lot the other day about finding all the different ways you can get better because when you talk about a guy like, let's take Parker, Parker Phileas, for instance, he's in his 6th year coming back. He's already graduated with his undergrad. That the way that guy is going to find ways to get better is going to be vastly different than some of these true freshmen, like say a Cade Law. They're all working towards the same things, but they're starting from different spots, right? And so the goal of any program, right, is how can you find new and different ways for all of these guys to continue to get better? And so you got to show them all the different ways that's involved in getting better. So that's kind of where we're at with this group. We're going to have to go back with a young group and really mentor a lot and assume nothing and kind of teach them everything that we're about. And I will say this, I'm talking a lot about youth, but I really still believe in this group. They're talented. They can all wrestle and they have accolades. I don't expect anything as far as the same standard that we've had in building forward on it, right? Like we're going to still move forward in a program, but we will be young, and so I think that requires maybe not assuming anything and making sure these guys all know what's involved in winning at a high level.
In addition to the new faces, we're gonna introduce some new places to the program. As we we rolled out our non-conference schedule, like 2 weeks ago, Tony? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Two cool things about, or I shouldn't say two, cool things about this schedule include a lot of home dates and a few new tournaments that we don't traditionally go to.
No doubt. We were on the road a little bit more last year, and that'll pay dividends this year in terms of a lot of those schools will come back to visit us. You think of Ryder and Drexel are all coming to us this year. And so we really need our fans to come out and support, right? So come out and support this young group as well. But it's nice. We're going to be young, but we're also going to be at home a lot, especially early in the year. And so when you think about that, I kind of tease it. We've got first home duel, the 13th of November is Ryder, returning that date to us, just a single duel. So that'll be kind of a nice first home event for us. And then we get busy on the 20th with a quad, which is going to be Cleveland State, another place, we went to Cleveland State last year, Northern Illinois. It's kind of been, just, a stalwart, I guess, if you will, in that quad. So Cleveland State, Northern Illinois, us, and then Chattanooga, a new addition, right? So Chattanooga is going to be joining us for that first quad of the year. And then, boy, another quad that I'll mention before I talk about some of these tournaments, December 20th, immediately following finals, we're going to have Drexel, who's going to return to us after us making our way out there last year. But then two new additions people have not seen necessarily on our schedule a lot. Campbell from down south and Utah Valley out west will complete that quad. So a nice mix of teams we saw last year that owe us home dates, and then some exciting new additions that they'll be on our schedule the next couple of years because they'll come to us this year and I'll return the favor to them in the future. So yeah, it's an interesting makeup for us early on.
I know a lot of this is strategic, Tony, and it's obviously what you try to do. You try to be at home a little bit more with a young team, right? That's not something that's exclusive to wrestling. That's that's an athletics thing.
You're telling me that's like a common coaching tactic?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess like it's what you try to do, but we were able to really make it come together this year as far as, getting people to agree to come to us and having some of these dates. Like you said, we went on the road in the past, and so people were willing to return the favor. How did that all kind of come together in a perfect storm of sorts?
Well, I mean, it started 2 years ago. I mean, you're always looking ahead, right? I mean, you're never just, if you're reacting to things all the time, you're probably behind, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? You don't want to be in a position where you're always reacting. So just kind of looking a couple years out, we knew we were going to be younger. When you look at who was coming back, we knew Devin was going to come back, and we knew that what that team was going to be. And I thought, okay, that's okay. We can be on the road. It's an older group, and we want to be on the road more. So starting last year, I said, hey, we'll come see you guys when we're talking to some of these non-conference opponents. I told them I'm happy to come out there this year if you'll return the date next year. So just knowing that, hey, as my team turns over, I wanted to be at home more that next year. And so I was happy to go on the road last year with what I would consider a more experienced group. And so that way we were going to really be able to kind of load up, I guess, if you will, and be at home more, especially early on in the season before we get to Big Ten competition.
2 new tournaments on the schedule. We'll return to Vegas in the first weekend in December for the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Collegiate Invitational, which is always a great trip. But tell us a little bit about the 2 new trips and how they found their way on the schedule.
Yeah. Well, in an effort to just see different competition, because it is easy to get stuck in your ways. We've done Michigan State a lot, if you follow us years ago. And so I just felt like we wanted to change the scenery. And so Clarion, small college with a strong tradition of wrestling, hosts an open every year. So we decided to load up the bus, and on November 6th, we're going to be out at Clarion in an open tournament. Probably a nice rule change for people to be aware of too is now true freshmen cannot compete unattached in an open first semester. So if they are going to compete, it has to be attached, meaning we have to pay and bring them on the bus or travel them with us. And so we're going to be taking a lot of these young guys I just mentioned probably on that bus as well to our first open. So we'll have a large group out at the Clarion Open on November 6th. The one thing I will mention from a rule standpoint as well, yes, they can't compete unattached next year in the first semester, but they can use 5 dates of competition, whether it's in a duel or tournaments, and not burn red shirts, similar to what people may have seen with football, right? So football has 4 dates and they don't don't have to redshirt. So same for us. We get 5 dates of competition before they lose their red shirt. So another nice kind of rule change for the kids that people will have to follow along, where maybe if they see a kid in an event early and they're like, oh, they pulled his red shirt. Well, no, not necessarily. It might just an opportunity presented themselves, and we want to see how they're doing. And I think that's a great rule change for us, where kids get experience and we get a chance to evaluate them sooner than ever, but not necessarily lose their red shirt. So that will be fun. So, yep, that's the Clarion Open. Keep an eye on who's all on the bus for us out there.
It's going to be a full bus.
It's going to be a full bus. We were just talking about that the other day. Probably as big a party as we've ever had, honestly, heading there. You mentioned Cliff Keen, another nice test, but we only get to take 10. That's not an open, but always a great event. And then the other event that's going to be new is Southern Scuffle. We're going to try that this year. Again, just in an effort just to see different things and different people, see where we're at. Still another really quality tournament. I consider it the same as Midlands. You know what I mean? Midlands has kind of been a staple. And truthfully, we'll still have kids in all likelihood at Midlands. Maybe some younger guys and different things like that. But we're going to take a group probably of about 15 guys is what we're kind of looking at to the Scuffle. So our 10 starters probably, and then a number of number 2s as well.
Yeah, a lot of people I saw that, I think we got more comments on social media with the schedule release regarding Scuffle than anything else. Just because, like you said, our holiday tournament has always been Midlands, and like you said, we'll still send kids to Midlands.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
having a team down at Scuffle and seeing some different teams and some different formats will be interesting for sure.
No doubt. And just to let people know kind of my thoughts, I still love Midlands, and we'll be back. 100%. We will still be back at that tournament. Love it. But I was ready to try some different things in terms of how you qualify for nationals. And we've talked about that a lot, right? In terms of APR, win percentage, coaches rank. And so I thought this would be a good time to get out, see some different people, and see kind of how that affects where we're at into the year in terms of qualification for the national championships and seedings and different things like that as well. So just something we're going to try to see how that affects that whole formula.
Well, a good reminder that there's too many acronyms in college sports. You said APR instead of RPI.
Thank you. That's what you're here for, man, is to catch me, right? I mean,
I try.
Well, and I'll say to explain myself, all of these freshman rules I'm talking about came out of APR, academic progress rate changes. So
I knew where you're.
That's the only way I can explain myself to people who are like, man, he really is getting senile, which has been brought up before.
That was a heavy topic in this week's staff meeting, was Ersland's dementia and the fact that he's losing it. So
yep.
He had to swallow a tough bite there in that meeting, because he asked the question at the table this week. He's like, guys, am I senile? Am I losing it? And everybody at the table was, well, we've been thinking it for about a year or two, Ersland, but we didn't want to say anything. So it was, nice big slice of humble pie for him.
Yeah, too many things on my plate, Corey. Too many things running around on that hamster wheel too fast, buddy.
Yep. Too many times around is dangerous. To emphasize your point on the Scuffle and seeing different competition, last year's field included just 3 teams from the Big Ten. Yep. Midlands traditionally is pretty Big Ten heavy. Maryland, Michigan State, and Minnesota, according to Chattanooga's website, were the 3 Big Ten teams that had a presence there last year. So
Penn State, there may have been some random Penn State kids there too.
Right, some smaller groups maybe, but as far as teams go, that was the representation versus a lot of Southeast schools. Stanford was there, Oklahoma State was there, Virginia Tech, some Northeast schools, Cornell and Columbia, Duke, Drexel. So you just getting a different flavor that that puts a little bit more juice behind what you were saying there, and I think it's a great move.
And the other thing that I really love about Scuffle that I think is great, we talk about RPI, we talk about scheduling, we talk about all that stuff. Scuffle is a D1 exclusive event. And so
every match is going to count.
And every match is going to count. There are traditionally, I don't know if they'll change this, but traditionally there are no non-D1 schools and there are no postgrads. So you don't run into those situations where, a guy, and this is kind of a thing with open tournaments, you go to an open tournament, depending on how the bracket falls, you maybe get, a D2 guy or an NAIA guy, and then maybe you get a post grad, and you wrestle 5 matches and you leave with only like 2 that count.
Yep.
And so that can be a strange factor with some of these other tournaments and some of the open tournaments, how they help us or hurt us from that standpoint when it comes to NCAA qualification and RPI and all that stuff.
Yep, no doubt.
Another thing I like, Coach, that you're doing with going to the Clarion Open is I know last year with the more veteran team, you stayed away from that opening weekend tournament for the team, going to Clarion, getting those younger guys, not only competing at home, but hopefully getting them a good handful of matches on that opening weekend instead of just 1 or 2 through duels.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, just making sure, right? The goal is to make sure that by the end of the year, going into Big Tens and then the national championships, the kids have the experiences and opportunities that are going to serve them best. And that's where, to your point, I really landed last year. Veteran group, hey, let's just get into the duels right away. Get them to see some people that are going to be important for them. But we didn't need the match count per se. And here we'll have an opportunity, and hopefully, right, everybody stays healthy and we can get their match counts where we want in that first semester. So if you have anybody get hurt or you got to sit somebody, or those situations present themselves, you've not hurt yourself in terms of qualification status again going into March.
For sure. One last thing probably good to touch on here is, as we said, the guys are back, kids are back, classes have started, and the thing that always immediately follows that is bringing recruits to campus. Got an exciting next probably 6 weeks or so of outstanding young men from all over the country coming to campus, getting to experience what we have to offer here at Purdue.
Yeah. I'll go back and I'll tell people more about how we spent our summer so that you catch up to what's going to happen the next 6 weeks. I mean, you basically go back to the first week in June, even when we were out at, Ohio for the U23s, right? They had the U20 world teams, right, that were competing. So we've been recruiting since that first week in June. So we were at the U20s, cadet duels, junior duels, Fargo, like all of those events were things we were at in recruiting. And then we were doing a number of home visits, and I still got home visits coming up here this week and early into this fall as well. But what you just said is kind of where we're going to go now. We've been out all summer, seeing these guys, evaluating, getting to know them and their families. And now they're going to be here this fall, starting, Thursday night when that, Purdue kicks off against Penn State. And so that's really kind of getting down towards the end. It's not certainly going to be the last piece of recruiting, but, we've been out and again, getting to evaluate them and get to know their families. Now they're going to connect all the dots, so to speak, with everything we've been telling them about what Purdue has, how they fit in, what our resources are for them. And now that'll really connect the dots for these young men and their families. And then hopefully, we're looking to get commitments and kind of move forward with knowing what our classes are going to look like in the future.
100%. We got the guys that are going to be seniors this fall, class of 2023, some of which are going to be looking to sign a national letter of intent in November and doing that whole thing. Obviously we've talked about this at length before, but with the accelerated recruiting process, opening up the juniors to official visits and having them on campus. We have one young man that obviously we can't speak too much about, but has been committed to us for almost a year already. And he's, still, taking his official visit, but has the opportunity to take unofficial visits and come back and see us from time to time. And so it's going to be a wild next couple months. And this is in addition to the fact, like, we're still going to have coaches heading out to see major events all over the country.
Yeah, you got Elite Eight duels September. You got Super 32 October, IHPO here in our home state. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It'll be nuts, and we'll patch together. We'll send. I think Coach Soufflon's probably going to Elite Eight duels on a weekend when we have a bunch of recruits in, and Coach Shop is, he loves Super 32. He'll probably head out there. Same weekend we have Parents Weekend, as well as maybe some recruits on campus. So it's going to be wild. I'm excited. It's fun. I love that football's back. We know you love college football, Tony, and so
love it. Love it.
And Corey will probably be a little bit busy this fall. It's not like you have anything to do.
Well, for goodness sakes, the name on his screen says Purdue football even. So, we're on a wrestling podcast and it says Purdue football.
The fans can't see that, Tony. They don't see.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gave up. Corey. I threw Corey under the bus. He's a wrestling man. We know this, but I had to bring it up since I've been staring at Purdue football.
No, I understand. I got to get that changed. Back to this Zoom stuff that we were talking about.
Corey, what kind of I know it increases every year. And so and I'm curious, I'm assuming you have this number handy, but I'm kind of curious. How many streams do you have this fall?
This fall, actually, it's wild because our soccer team is so good, and because our volleyball team is so good. The Big Ten Network picked up more of their games than they normally do. So as of right now, through the end of November, not taking basketball or wrestling into account, we're at about 20. Once we add in the Boilermaker duels and the women's basketball non-conference and a couple men's basketball non-conference, we'll probably sit around 30 to 35 for the fall semester. And then, in the spring, we'll do another 50 with baseball and softball. And that's okay. Yeah. I was talking to my peer up at Michigan State because they have a couple other sports that we don't have, namely ice hockey. They were at 104 streams last year that he was responsible for. So we count our blessings.
There you go. Big Ten Network, lightening your load.
That's what it's. Yes, BTN's what it's all about. Big Ten.
Well, no, it's technically it's Coach Roth and Coach Shondell lightening his load by by demanding the attention.
Absolutely. No, I hear you, buddy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We're still waiting on the Big Ten schedule, probably about 3 or 4 weeks away from that. But we had a record year for TV appearances last year. Mm-hmm. And so hoping to see more of that. And the Big Ten continues to increase its commitment to wrestling and getting us on TV, and the numbers have warranted that. We've talked about that in the past. So that'll be fun to see roll out here in a few weeks.
Yeah, and I would expect when we're talking about home events, we should be at home still quite a bit, even with our Big Ten schedule, because we know we were on the road against Nebraska. So Nebraska should be coming our way. Iowa should be coming our way. Northwestern, we were on the road, and we had IU on the road, and we know we're going to have them. So there's at least four more events. So we're looking at 7, at home, a good quality home schedule for us this year. So yeah, it's going to be a fun year.
It's great. Looking forward to it. I know I probably shouldn't ask this question because I don't know the answer to it, or if we can even talk about the answer to it.
That's like a lawyer technique, right? Don't ask questions you don't know the answer to.
Is there a wrestling media day been tossed around at all as an idea?
It has. It's funny you bring that up. Not funny, because we'd love to have one. We have every April, we have what's called the Big Ten Wrestling Coaches Business Meeting. And that one has been brought up because, as Tanner said, like our BTN numbers continue to be elevated, right? We're on a strong trajectory here where we're number 3 on their network. And so coaches are definitely asking, can we do that? Is that something that we can do and should be done? And so we're waiting to see where that may go. I don't think we're too far away from it, to tell you the truth.
They did one with volleyball this summer for the first time, so that kind of brought it front of mind to me, and maybe a fun announcement sometime down the road.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think we'll keep pushing. I mean, that's definitely on our coach's mind. I think it would develop so much content, right, for the Big Ten that they could use throughout the year. What comes out of those things, it's not just a one weekend deal, right? It's stuff you can use all the way through. So yeah, I think there's a lot of support for it.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, let's we definitely have some more. We've got some exciting announcement coming early next week. We're looking forward to getting that information out there, and we will definitely be able to talk more about that at length on next week's show. But it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of fun and exciting things going on. So look forward to it.
Can't wait, fellas. Thanks, and we'll do this again next week.